Howdy, it's Jim Morado. We're taking a scenic drive kind of around Mammoth Cave National Park today. This is, actually, I think we did this on January 23rd, 2021, not that long ago. We still have COVID going on and all that wonderful stuff, so we're trying to get out and do things, but still trying to be very cautious when we can. And on this particular Saturday, we drove down to Mammoth Cave, which we do that several times a year. If you've watched other videos of mine, I love Mammoth Cave. It's one of my favorite places on the planet. I just think it's great. So we drove down here just to check things out, and just as always, it was nice. And we ended up doing this little scenic loop drive. And actually, normally there's two ferries involved. One of them was closed. So we did this one, the Green River Ferry. The last ferry that I was on, I believe, was several years ago in Canada, going from Vancouver over to Vancouver Island, which was a very different experience. It was a huge boat where they line you up, you pull your car in, you park, then you go roam around the boat for a couple of hours, then you're on Vancouver Island, and you had to pay. Man, it was fairly expensive. I didn't know how much this one would cost. I figured, there'd be some sort of ticket, but there wasn't. This was totally free, which was pretty cool. And in fact, the little guy operating the boat just sort of signaled us a little bit, and we were moving before I knew it. We were the only car on the ferry, and we just kind of pulled on, and then I realized things were moving, and we were on the other side of the river in no time. In fact, I don't know, I think sometimes in our brains we kind of tend to overcomplicate things. I thought this would be a complicated transaction of some sort. You'd buy a ticket, you'd get on the ferry, you'd move, half an hour later you're across. But that was not the case at all. You literally, this, I stopped filming for maybe 15 seconds. But otherwise, I pretty much filmed the entire ferry ride. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed that. But it's real simple. Real simple. Like I said, the little ferry guy sort of signaled us. He kind of waved us on. We got on the boat. And he just stayed in his little room there and drove us on over. So yeah, anyway, we drove down to Mammoth Cave again on this Saturday. It was cold. We thought we would come down and do some hiking, which we did do. We did a very short hike. I put another video up about that. But we thought it would be nice to take like a scenic loop drive around the park. And there was a great ranger there on this particular day. And by the way, if you go to Mammoth Cave in January, actually January is a good time to go for the most part. They don't have the crowds they get in the summers. You can really enjoy the park, the visitor center, and the tours in a more comfortable kind of setting. Unfortunately, with COVID right now, I know they're limiting the tours they do and how many people are on the tours. And it's well, to the national park's credit, they're being very serious about social distancing and to keep the numbers down and all that. And even when you go into the visitor center at Mammoth Cave, they have the restrooms, and they have kind of an in and out door. So when you go into the visitor center, you can go into the bathroom, but then when you leave the restrooms, you have to go outside and then come back into the visitor center. It's a bit complicated. I might even say somewhat unnecessary, but I do admire them for doing that. They're doing things right, and they're being very careful, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate everything the national parks do, especially Mammoth Cave. It's just a wonderful place. If you look on my YouTube channel elsewhere, I did put up a video. We did go down and we took the historic tour, which they sort of retooled because of COVID. And I put up a video about that. So this was actually our second trip down to Mammoth Cave. I believe our second trip since COVID started. But yeah, we wanted to do a drive. We thought a drive would be fun, and there was a great ranger, and I wish I'd caught her name. She was wonderful. She was watching the front desk, and we ended up talking to her for quite a bit. But she pulled out one of the Mammoth Cave brochures with the park map and everything, and she highlighted a driving route for us. So my wife actually read the driving route as I drove, and we just had this great little experience doing some scenic driving here. So this was, and we usually do this at least once a year. We'll come down to Mammoth Cave National Park, and we will spend most of a day and not even bother with the cave tour. I love doing the cave tours, but I also love the park. I mean, the park and the area has enough going on for it that you can come down to Mammoth Cave National Park and that area and just enjoy it without even taking a cave trip. Oh, also on this day, and I'm going to put up another video of it if I haven't already, we went and drove by and saw Floyd Collins's grave. Floyd Collins, legendary caver, he got his legs stuck in Sand Cave, and he could not get out. And he would live his last a couple weeks on Earth stuck in a cave. And that's, yeah, if you're not familiar with Floyd Collins, look up Floyd Collins. That is just one interesting story. And I've said it many times. You can actually, on the Mammoth Cave National Park property, you can go to Sand Cave where he was stuck. They've got it gated up. You can't get into it. But you can go and see where that happened. And that was a big story. Geez, 90 years ago, that was a very, very big story. And yeah, one of the biggest stories around at the time. But it's, yeah, fascinating. It's weird. If you're into ghosty stories and just kind of weird stories, Floyd Collins has it all. Including the fact that he wasn't buried in his current burial site, I believe, until 1989. His body was stolen at one time, and one of his legs is still missing. I could go on and on about Floyd Collins. But yeah, check out Floyd Collins if you're not familiar with Floyd Collins. And we also, on this day, we took a short little hike, literally one of the shortest hikes you could take because it was so cold, and it was ground we'd been over before in the park. But we went up to the old guide cemetery where some of the original, even slave guides, are buried for Mammoth Cave, and that's just an incredible chunk of history that most people that go to Mammoth Cave miss because they don't go out to it. But it's a really nicely preserved and kind of gated around little cemetery, and yeah, that's just really exciting. You have some of the original guides are out there, and yeah, I enjoy that experience. It's a very short walk from the visitor center. It's almost, a baseball's throw away from the historic entrance, and it's a very short walk from the lodge buildings that you can rent for the night. And we've done that before. We stayed in one of the lodges one night. A year or two ago. I'm sure I've put up another video about that because I film everything at Mammoth Cave. I love Mammoth Cave. But the lodge, I think they're a little pricey for what they are. However, you do get to stay right there on the park property at night. And, you can leave your windows open and kind of look outside, and it's a very cool experience. And if you've been down to Mammoth Cave and kind of roamed around, there are deer everywhere. And I know late one evening we were coming back to our little room place we had rented, and the deer were just thick. Deer were everywhere, and that was a cool experience. I wouldn't discourage you to stay at the lodge, but it's just like I said, it's a tiny bit pricey for what it is, and it's a lodge. We stayed at the Grand Victorian Inn, which is kind of like a nice historic bed and breakfast, which is maybe 10 miles from Mammoth Cave. I might be off a little bit there, but it's not that far, and we stayed there for probably half the price we stayed at the lodge. Yeah, and I hope you're checking out the scenery here. Kind of a little small road, little one-way road we drove on, and yeah, this was just pleasant. My dad, my dad passed away not too long ago, but he and I would go driving all over the place, and we would, even when I was younger, up until when he died, we would just get in his truck or get in my car and go, sometimes with no real place in mind. And I think a lot of people that grow up in the country, I know my wife's late father was like that too. He also liked to do that, and we did that a lot. I think, if you grew up in the country, that's almost like a favorite pastime, just getting in the car and going. And I kind of like that, without much of a purpose. And these little trips kind of remind me of those little road trips. I know my dad and I would usually plan out something though, like we might, especially as I got older, and he was living in Western Kentucky. We would go and try to visit, maybe some obscure city in Southern Illinois with some history to it, and we might just kind of roughly start driving in that direction and see what happened. And that to me is about the best way you can spend a day off. That's a great way to spend a Saturday or a Sunday. And I'll mention this in probably every video I ever do about Mammoth Cave. A couple of the original guides at the cave, slave guides, the last name Bransford comes up, and you can Google that name, and I encourage you to Google that name, because going up into the 1940s, there was a direct descendant of at least one of the original Bransfords working at Mammoth Cave as a guide. And I want to say in the 40s they stopped, I think they got rid of all their black guides, ending that wonderful legacy. However, Jerry Bransford was contacted later, and they talked him into coming on and being a guide. And I believe he is still guiding there. Usually, the last few years, I think he's done it kind of on weekdays during the summer. He's at that point in his life where he can be a bit selective, and he's enough of a treasure that he deserves that right to say when he works. But Jerry Bransford has been associated with Mammoth Cave, sort of recontinuing that legacy. He tells a great story about when he was a kid. He came to Mammoth Cave, and I think he was at one of the restaurants, and I think they asked him to leave because he was black. And later on, the park contacted him to ask him to be a guide to continue his family's legacy. And he is, if you've been to Mammoth Cave and had him as a guide, you will remember him. And I know the last time I saw him at the park, he was kind of working one of the stations in the cave on one of the self-guided tours, and once you got to that little station, he would kind of tell you his story and a little bit about his family. But yeah, that legacy, that tradition, and that man is gold. That's just I really, it gets me excited thinking about, there he is humbly and proudly working for the park. With everything he and his family have been through, and it continues a wonderful legacy. Anyway, yeah, I could go on about that for forever. And to me, the name Bransford and the name Collins are two names that just are always associated with Mammoth Cave. And the fact that they actually have a Bransford still working at the park is incredible. So, I know Jerry was trying to raise money to build a monument. At one point, I actually donated a little bit to that. I'm not sure what the progress is on that project at the moment, but hopefully that happens at some point. I wanted to mention, I may have told this story somewhere else on another video, many years ago, back in high school. I believe it was a January or a February day. I'm pretty sure it was a January day. It was snowy. School in Davis County was canceled, and my brilliant buddy Brent and I We were both brilliant at the time. We decided to drive down to Mammoth Cave for the day. What the heck? We had the day off on those snowy, ice-covered roads. We just got our driver's licenses. Why not do something like that? So, yeah, we drove to Mammoth Cave for the day, and we felt like we had the whole park to ourselves. And by the way, if you're watching the video, I can't remember what I was doing here. I think I can't remember if I saw something I was backing up. I know I didn't see any deer this particular day, which is an absolute rarity for this area. So yeah, I'm not sure why we're backing up here. Anyway, so yeah, we drove down to Mammoth Cave for the day. I know we took a tour. I remember hanging out at the old visitor center, and yeah, we just really felt like we had the entire place to ourselves, and it was really cool. There had to have been other people there, but there weren't many. And that's one of the cool things about coming down on a normal January, is it's just very uncrowded, especially compared to if you go on some of the holidays, some of the national holidays, they'll have like a free day where you can show up and do a free historic tour, and those are days the parking lot is full. But if you come down, again, January, you can really feel like you own the place. So yeah, me and my friend Brent did that. The first time I came to Mammoth Cave would have been in the probably early to mid 80s. My cousin Jerry and his mom and dad decided to go to Mammoth Cave, and they invited me with them. And that was a big trip. I remember that very, very vividly in my brain. And that was so much fun. And, if you know any little people that maybe don't get out much, and you're an adult, invite them to go to Mammoth Cave with you. Taking a trip like this just is absolutely mind-blowing. And it really can... I grew up in Davis County, kind of out in the country, and we just didn't have the opportunities to get out often. And when somebody would invite me to go, say, to Mammoth Cave or Kentucky Lake or something, it was a huge thrill. It still is, but those first few trips when I was very young were really, really special. Another friend of mine that back in high school, they did like an overnight trip with their family, and I went with them, and that was also a lot of fun. We did the big Mammoth, I want to say the 8-hour cave tour. I can't remember exactly, but it was like we did that big, massive cave tour, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so today we did not do the cave at all. We're driving around, and just driving around neat little areas. We stopped at a gas station for a couple of drinks. There was another little town we passed through, Brownsville. Yeah, Brownsville. I just looked on the map, and I kind of edited out of this. It's kind of a neat little historic town, and I'll probably put up a short little video of it later. But it was a cool little place, and we bumped into a couple of other cool little towns as we were driving around, including Sweden, Kentucky. I can't remember if I filmed it or not. But, I collect postmarks, and I was unaware of Sweden. So, of course, I had to stop there and get a postmark. Friendly little post office. Just a nice place to stop. And I also wanted to mention that the other ferry, if you're doing this kind of drive and loop, you take the Green River Ferry over, you take the Houchin Ferry back. I believe it's called the Houchin Ferry. It was closed at the moment, so there was some other way. It really wasn't that big of a deal, but we did not take a ferry back over when we came back to the national park. Oh, and we did go by Nolan River to the Nolan River Dam. I don't know a whole lot about this. If you know anything interesting, let me know. Looked cool. But it not a place that was exactly on my radar or anything, but it looked interesting. Again, it's always fun driving through little areas like this and just finding places like that. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, that's the Sweden post office. I believe slightly different spelling than the country, but we stopped here briefly. I ran in and got a postmark for my collection, and there was a really nice lady working there who was pleasant and very happy to give me a postmark, which was appreciated. So anyway, yeah, that was just us driving around Mammoth Cave National Park, kind of going in and out of the park area. But I just thought that would, I thought I would put that up in case you enjoy taking little scenic rural drives. Thanks.